Hi, ladies and gentlemen, this is Eddie Marcus again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. I'm coming back to you so early is because I'm very concerned about what's really going on. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And if there's a difference between the two, then when you have walked in the area of one and you discover that you should be in another and you get in another, there's a difference in the way you walk. It's not the same way you were walking before. So if you are walking according to that which causes pain and suffering as a finished product of whatever you're doing, and you conclude that that is a way you do not want to be, and that there is a way where there is no pain and suffering, then if you step in that way, then you have to walk according to the dictates of the way that is permitted. Now, when you walking side by side with the other way, you still got to walk your way, and you say, "Well, I got to have access to resources." Well, where are the resources? The resources have been stolen. So what you must do is expose that the resources have been stolen by identifying where those resources are from. Now, let me give you some statistics about something. I was doing some research and I ran across a place where they said there's approximately 39 million people living below the poverty line. 39 million people. Do you know how many people 39 million represent? 39 million people living below poverty or in poverty. In poverty or below. Now that's according to the U.S. Census. Now, all of this takes place in what is known as the richest nation on earth. Now, is that true? I don't know, but that's what they say. The average poverty line, or should I say, for one person, that would be restricted to around 12, maybe $13,000. Now, you one person living in America, 12 to $13,000. Well, let's say it's four of you living together, $26,000. Poverty. Isn't that something? Now, what are some of the things that's happening that can cause so many of the problems that we do have? First of all, we have a lot of adults that's not working. They represent about 30% of the population. Adults without high school education, that represents about 27% of the population. And you know what else that's supposed to represent. For those that's under disability, you got about 25% of the population represented there. And the blacks, you got about 20%, and Hispanic 17%, and children 15%. All of this, what some people might want to say are problems. They are the cancers of society, some might say. But what actually is going on, ladies and gentlemen, between the age of 18 and 64, there are approximately 200 million people. Between the age of 18 and 64, there's approximately 200 million. And guess what? 21 million of those live in poverty. What? Live in poverty. Now, according to those same statistics, 300 approximately, and 28 million Americans. We're just using that number, 328 million. And of that number, 37 million are in poverty. Can you believe it? Do you know what it's like to be in poverty? Do you know the pain and suffering that comes from poverty? Do you know the restrictions that you have from poverty? You can't do anything, you can't live, you can't visit, you can't laugh, you can't smile because you're struggling trying to survive. Do you realize the pain of poverty? Well, let's break it down a little bit. Let's look at some of the people in poverty. Let's look at white people. There's approximately 194 million white people. I don't know if this is accurate. This is just according to some statistics. 194 million white people. And of that, 15 million live in poverty. 15 million live in poverty. That represents about 8%. Okay? Now let's look at blacks. Blacks represent about 44 million. 44 million, that's not many compared to 194 million. So white people double plus on of black people in this country. But guess what? Of this small number of people, what part of poverty do they represent? They represent 90, almost 20% of the poverty. The small group of people, 44 million people. Now, look at the whites. 194 million, 15 million in poverty, represent 8%. 8% of all these people. And this is a small number. Wow, something going on strange. I got Asian here, 20 million people, 1 million, 1.9 in poverty, represent 9%. Hispanics, 62.5 million people living in America, represent 10 million in poverty, and that represents 17%. So you got Hispanics and you got the blacks. My. Now, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. I just shared with you some statistics about what's going on in the country. The poverty, the pain, the suffering, the people that's suffering within these different groups, the lack of access. But let's look at this. When you got that kind of stuff, what happens? You got approximately 2 million, just approximately, not accurate, 2 million in state and federal prisons. 2 million people in state and federal prisons. What does that say about the system? Somebody say they're working hard, trying to get them straight, as if prisons corrected something. Well, let's see. What are some of the problems there? Overcrowded. That I ain't worried about that. But what are some of the most common crimes that people engage themselves in that cause them to end up in prison? The most common. Drug offense. Over 300 million jail for that. Isn't that something? Over 350,000 jail for drug offenses. 62% of violent crimes. In 1970, it was only 30%. So violent crimes have risen. Crime, what does that represent? Crooks, people, they have no respect. That's what you're thinking. That's what you've been told to think. Check this out. In Texas, they got 133 plus thousand in prison. Can you imagine 133,000 people in Texas in prison? 133,000. What we got? California, 101,000. Florida, 8,000. Georgia, 47,000. 80,000 for Florida. Georgia, 47,000. And what are they in jail for again? For larceny, for drug violations, driver problems, disorderly conduct, a complete failed system. Now, you saw all that bad stuff, right? You saw that bad stuff. Now check this out. You got billionaires, multi-billionaires. It reminds you of the story in the Bible when the barns were running over. But my reason for trying to bring that message to you today, ladies and gentlemen, is that this pain is being felt immediate. If Donald Trump had gotten a second chance to be president of the United States, the pain and suffering that would have been dealt upon the American people would have been felt immediate. It was to some already, but the plans that he had would have been immediate. And you know it would have been immediate because they tell you every day they ready to pick up guns and start shooting you. So you know they have no respect for you. You know they represent Satan. My thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about Republican and this is not about Democrat. This is really not about whites and this is really not about black. This is about right and this is about wrong. This is about morals. This is about what we call righteousness and unrighteousness. Some people might want to say, this is what we call God, and this is what we call the devil. The devil, you have been told, comes to rob, to steal, to kill, to destroy. And that's everything a certain group of people in this country advocates. From politicians all the way down from how low you can go. And on the other side, you got people who represent the same thing. I'm just going to be honest. The same thing, but they're not as bad. They are not as bad. Why do I say the same thing? Because what these guys, what these Trumpers and stuff are trying to get you to do is to just do this. You know, they say in Hollywood, in order to make money, you got to sell your soul. So everybody making big money, they say they're selling their soul. You can tell them, they say, because the black folk wearing dresses, and they got a lot of other things that you have to do to make you so embarrassed that you locked into that thing. So they got something that you have to do. That's the same way in regular society. You fit in, you are accepted, you bought in. You protect that by going along with it. And that's the way, that's how you live, that's how you survive. You can survive by selling your soul, or survive by just riding the boat. There's another way that people don't do. That's the way that's totally opposite. This is the way which says the answer to all of your problems is recognizing the truth. The truth is that there's nobody over you but the Spirit of the loving God that's over you. And beyond that is you. Everything that you do is a decision by you. It can either be influenced by ugliness or it can be influenced by righteousness. What is that ugliness? Stuff that causes pain. What is that righteousness? Doesn't do it. Doesn't cause no pain. Okay, so that over here on the righteousness side, you've learned, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, you come here, you participate, you build. What is it that you build? Food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, transportation, and all the things that's made by hands of man. You can't do all that, but what, 328 million people can do a lot. And they don't have to do all that by themselves. They do that one special thing that they got that gives them their greatest gift, and we in America have to suffer for nothing. We don't owe anybody anything. We don't need a liar. We don't need any president trying to strip us of our rights. We don't need no politician. We don't need any of that junk. We just need a plan to live righteous and come up with a plan to make sure that people get access and engage and nothing else. Now, when I say nothing else, I'm talking about we don't need no money. We don't need no debt. We don't need no credit. We don't need nobody to be superior to anybody. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to let you go because I got to go up here and talk to some more people before they go. And I want to thank you so very much for giving me this your time. Until next, Eddie Marcus saying goodbye for now.